Hi everyone, welcome to Accepted Channel. This is my friend Clinton.
Hello everybody.
He's my interview for the day. Tell the lovely people about yourself.
Hello, my name's Clinton. I am an eSports broadcaster living in Seoul, South Korea. I've lived in Korea for about 3 years now, and just on a little vacation visit my friend Paul while I'm in Japan.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Sure.
It's really good to see you.
Yeah, man.
So, I have to ask, what is it like being an e-caster? I mean, I don't know anything about it, so I know it's big in Korea, but it's not so big here. What's that all about?
Sure. So, you know, I travel the world doing commentary for video game tournaments. Mostly I work for a company called PUBG, makes like a first-person shooter kind of game, and so I've been everywhere in the last couple years doing this job, and I'm just kind of like a regular sports broadcaster for any kind of, you know, baseball, football, whatever.
But you're calling eSports instead?
Yes, we call it eSports because it's just video games. So yeah, I've been to, oh God, London, Thailand, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia. I've been all over the world doing this thing, so it's pretty cool. I like it.
A good comparison question about Japan versus Korea. I have to ask, Japan has had game centers for decades, and they're all over the cities like Yokohama and Tokyo, but Japan just isn't in on the esports scene like Korea. Why is that?
Yeah, so you have to go pretty far back into video game history to kind of map out why this happened. So there's kind of always been a little bit of, you know, conflict between Korea and Japan culturally, and so
that's putting it lightly.
Yes, that's putting it lightly. In Korea, video games were popular, but mostly PC video games to start out with back in the late 90s. Whereas in Japan, it was console video games. So what ended up happening was a game called StarCraft became insanely popular in Korea, and then leagues started to form around that. Really, Korea is the mecca for esports. Like, that's what we kind of all think of it as. It's really the place where esports started. And part of that also was because up until very recently, esports has been tough to produce in Japan because the government considers it gambling, and that's not okay, right? There's very like kind of weird laws about that kind of thing, from what I understand from some of my friends who are in the tournament organizing side of things.
Okay, so if it was a pachinko tournament, maybe it'd be okay, but yeah. I don't know that anyone would want to watch that. Having lived in Korea for a time and having been in Japan, you know, on numerous occasions, what still stands out to you as being particularly different when you come and visit Japan as opposed to Korea?
I would say, like, one of the big things is people are quieter here, to be completely honest. Like, Korea it's not, I wouldn't call Korea rambunctious or anything like that, but Koreans definitely, you know, they're a little more outgoing, I guess would be the right word, when they're in public spaces. Okay. Like in public spaces in Japan, things are very quiet and pretty calm, but in Korea, there's people honking at each other all the time, and people are louder, and there's, you know, old women yelling at other people and old men yelling at other people, and so that's one thing that really sticks out to me when I come here now, and I do actually kind of appreciate that, a little bit of more calmness at times. What else is different here? They feel similar enough that I don't have much of a like jarring transition going between the two countries, to be honest.
How about like fashion or how people look?
Fashion in Korea is very bland's not the right word, because that's not what it is. It is there's not a huge array of like color palettes that they usually use. Like browns, blacks, whites are really popular for colors to use. Nothing that's going to stand out too much. You don't want to stand out too much in Korea. That's not really considered. It's kind of, if you do that, then you're really strange often. Whereas here in Japan, you're going to see a lot of different things. Like you'll see denim jackets, you'll see greens, you'll see reds, purples, a lot more of those colors than you would in Korea. You'll see those in Korea, but they're not nearly as common here.
Well, see, now that's interesting, because I always feel that Japan is very drab when it comes to color. Like Tokyo, it's the dark blue and the black and the charcoal gray, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had students who go abroad and have had to do like internships or things like that, and their coworkers have commented like, "You always dress in dark clothes." Like,
I think Korea is pretty similar in a lot of ways, but I would say there's more acceptance here, I feel like, of branching out a little bit more.
So, well, that leads me to another good question then. Like, I feel Japan obviously has a really deep and wide-ranging subculture scene. Other than like, well, I don't know, is eSports a subculture or is it just mainstream culture, would you say?
It's more mainstream these days, especially in the younger generations. Yeah, I would definitely consider it mainstream. I mean, everybody knows who, in Korea, Faker is. He's the most famous eSports player in the world. He plays League of Legends. Everybody in Korea knows who he is. Like, they had this thing where they have like the 4 like biggest Korean male stars right now, right? There's the guy who directed Parasite, and then there's BTS, the K-pop group. There's Hong Soon-min, who is the football player for Tottenham, and then there's Faker.
Okay.
So like these are the 4, you know, royalty of Korea, I guess you could put it. So yeah, it's definitely mainstream. Other niche things, there isn't too much. I mean, there is some level of.
Let me narrow it down for you then.
Sure.
There's definitely a subculture in Japan of people who love K-pop or really into K-idols and that sort of thing. Does that go both ways? Like, what is there any subcultures in Korea that is really into things Japanese?
Yes, yeah, totally. There's anime culture for sure.
Okay.
Manga culture. There's a One Piece.
Can't escape it.
Yeah.
I suppose I have to ask because Korea is pretty famously anti-Japanese a lot of the time. Is that something you actually can see or experience? You know, people saying things or things on the media. Does the Japan hate flow?
Yeah, it gets a little much at times for me. I understand there is a history there, and I'm very respectful of it. They did have like a recent campaign in Korea that was just no Japan, so they stopped purchasing like Japanese goods or going to Japanese restaurants. And
was that over the little trade spat that happened where the white paper came out and we shouldn't trade with? Yeah,
that was yes, that was it.
It made the news here, but I think most people didn't pay attention to it in Japan. People really paid attention to it in Korea?
Yeah, anything that hits the news in Korea tends to, everybody seems to get into it.
Okay, switching gears a little bit.
Okay.
If there was one thing from Japan that you wish you could get in Korea, what would that be?
The convenience stores.
Oh, really?
I don't even have to hesitate. The convenience stores.
That came right out.
The convenience stores are great in Korea, but there's something about the quality and the selection that I can get here in Japan that just is just so much better. I mean, Japan, for my best estimation, has the best convenience stores in the world. So that's immediately the first thing I think of.
Okay, now, what is something that you think Japan needs to get from Korea? Like, Japan really needs this. They need to get on this.
I mean, one thing that I really appreciate about Korea is, other than esports, is like the vibrant nightlife that I think Japan has a good nightlife, don't get me wrong, but Korea it's on another level. I mean, you can go out on a Tuesday night and in the clubbing area, and there are people just packed all night long. Sun comes up, there's still people out. So it's kind of, if you enjoy that kind of aspect, I'd say that's one area where Korea definitely has an edge on Japan.
Okay, interesting.
The other thing is, okay, the public transportation here is great, but finding exits and subway stations is a nightmare here compared to Korea. Like, Korea is so easy. They're just very clearly labeled. All of them are individual numbers for the most part.
Okay.
They're not like 1A, 1B, 1C, like not usually.
Sure.
So I actually have a much harder time navigating the train system here than I do in Korea, which is
interesting.
A minor gripe.
Now I have to get personal. I have to ask a personal question. You came to Japan before you went to Korea, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And if I remember correctly, like getting to Japan someday was one of your sort of bucket list goals. So I want to ask, if Japan had the same level of eSports culture as Korea did, do you think you would have ended up in Korea at all, or would you have moved here?
I think there's a really good chance I might have ended up here first, at least trying it out here. It would have depended as well, because I had some friends living in Korea for a long time that really helped me out in various different ways. So that made it a lot easier for that. What the heck are those things?
Oh, those are, so zoom in there.
Are those like?
Those are sleep pods. You want to take a nap in a sleep pod?
No. I don't want to do that. That sounds a little claustrophobic for me. But again, had esports been bigger in Japan, then maybe those friends are in Japan instead because they were kind of involved in esports.
Sure.
So, I mean, I really enjoy both countries very almost equally.
I guess all that remains is I need to get my butt over to Korea at some point.
Heck yeah, man.
Visit you. How have I been here for 15 years and not even made it across that little pond yet?
You gotta come. It's a really great country. I think it's like the hidden gem of Asia that a lot of people don't talk about unless you're really into, you know, K-pop or esports or something like that. I don't think a lot of people know how amazing Korea is, how fun it is. The food's incredible. You gotta be a little tolerant to spicy food, but it's nothing. Usually, it's not gonna blow your socks off. It's spicy, but it's not too bad. And yeah, it's a wonderful place. There's great culture, tons of museums. I love it there.
All right, there you go. There's the commercial for Korea. Maybe they got to get you on their payroll too.
Well, in some ways, I already am.
Okay, well, hey, thanks for agreeing to do this video.
Sure.
And is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, man. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure, and thanks for showing me around.
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you. We're going to go down to Kamakura tomorrow and go enjoy some green tea and temples. Thank you very much.
You bet.
And thank you for watching. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.